Okay, it is 10 o'clock. We will get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Scott Sandquist. I'm the Annuity Director over at Producers XL. And this morning I have Tim Benoit on the phone with us for this webinar with One America to talk about a product they've had, but I haven't talked about it a lot. But I'll tell you what, it's pretty exciting to see how this product works. I think it's going to give you another avenue to help people. It's an annuity, but also it has some true long-term care. I get a lot of calls about folks wanting true long-term care, and this is definitely a great fit. And Tim's going to go over a lot of the features and just how everything works. And we'll stop a little bit through and answer any questions. But if you do have questions, put them in the chat, and I will try to get those lined up, and we will go through those. So let's get started, and welcome, Tim, and I'll let you take over.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the time and appreciating the opportunity here with Producers XL to talk about the annuity care product. As Scott mentioned, it's not a new product, but it's maybe we've dusted it off. We've shined it up a little bit. I think when you're looking at the opportunities here, you're going to find that there's, think about your book of business where this might play with some of the different solutions. Scott mentioned also there is a Q&A feature within the Zoom platform or a chat. So if you have a question as we kind of go through this, don't be shy, type that in there. We'll get you some answers as we go through that. We'll have a couple places where we can stop as we go through as well. So a little bit about our agenda today as we go through this. We're going to talk a little bit about the extended care planning conversation, and then we get into some of the product selection. So we'll take a little bit deeper dive into the product. As we kind of wrap up through the presentation, we're going to get into a little bit about how you get started writing these products. It is an annuity product, so there's some training that needs to be completed, and we'll talk about that, some product training. If you're already writing annuities, this is not something new for you. And then from an application perspective, when you're ready to write something, how are we going to, the e-app and or a paper app, whatever is easiest for you and your client as we go through that. So as I start with all my meetings, I start thinking about what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the words long-term care or long-term care insurance. Now, we're not in a live setting today, but I did this last week in Pittsburgh with about 40 advisors in the room. And of course, somebody shouts out nursing home. And that may be what you were thinking this morning too. When we talk about long-term care, the first thing that kind of more times than not pops in somebody's head is a nursing home. And I'm going to follow that up with how many on the call today are excited about going to a nursing home. And I did that last week, and nobody's hand raised, right? So there's maybe that's the opportunity, or as we position the product, it's what does long-term care insurance do? But think about the words. If you don't take, if this is the only thing you take from today's presentation, instead of using the words long-term care insurance, I'm going to replace that with extended care planning. Extended care planning. Why is that important? Because it invokes a different emotion. See, when I say long-term care insurance, I might as well be just saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let's talk about nursing home insurance. And most people don't want to talk about it. Most people don't want to go there. And so already their defenses are up going, why would I talk about a product at a place that I don't want to go to? So when we bring up the words extended care planning, it changes it into more of a consultative approach. Long-term or nursing care, nursing home is just one of many places that people receive their care. So let's think about not so much nursing home coverage. Let's thinking about an extended care plan. What does the plan look like for the client as we go through that? So I use buckets and spigots and kind of keep it simple, but I think the picture here that we're going to be talking about makes a big difference. And so let's assume that I needed care today. And at the end of regardless of where I received my care, my wife, Kathy, had to write a dollar bill. It was the cost for my care today, to keep it simple, would be $1 for my expenses for whoever provided that care today when they left my residence, or if I was in a facility, it cost me $1. And so my wife has some different buckets at the house here that she could get some money out. So one of the buckets, she would have to pay $1.40. She takes out $1.40 to net the dollar. There's another bucket of some money in the house here that she has, and it's $1.20. So she has to take out $1.20 to net out that dollar. There's a third bucket in the house here, and that's $1 for dollar. She can basically trade out the dollar from that bucket. And then the last bucket, the green bucket down here at the bottom, if maybe she puts in 40 cents into that bucket, or that's a leverage dollar, right? So she's going to put in something less to get something out. And if you think about your clients today, I guarantee you they probably have some money in that $1.40 bucket. They probably have some assets, some different pieces in the $1.20. They probably have some money in the dollar. And the question becomes, how much do they have, if any, in the green bucket at the 40 cents? Because that becomes where we want to think about the consequences to one's decision. So when we think about that top bucket, that's the IRA money. You probably have clients that have IRAs or some type of a qualified dollars that basically have never been taxed before. So when they take that money out, now we find out that there's that income, that earned income tax. The next part of that is the long-term capital gain side of that. So now we got, those are non-qualified assets. And really, if you think from a tax planning strategy, if you're helping them with any of that, it's, I want to live off the income of those assets, and my children would enjoy the stepped up in basis upon death, right? So if I had to liquidate it today, I'd have to pay capital gains. That third bucket, as we know, is cash, money market, checking account, whatever you want to talk about. But that's the dollar for dollar trade. And then this last one, as we know it, is insurance, right? So that's the discounted dollars that if I put in something less, I'm going to get something back out. And it becomes the most efficient and effective use of one's dollars. Reason I bring that up is that there's a set of consequences to everybody's decision of what they made. So if they're going to pay the $1.40, the $1.20, the dollar, or the 40 cents, I don't need them to love my product, but I want them to understand the consequences. If you leave it where it's at today, what might happen down the road? And so we get into that same situation again, and we start going down those dollars. But in this situation, what happens if I have a non-qualified annuity? Is it not that when the non-qualified annuities are great for accumulation, right? I can grow the money. That's the accumulation side because I get the tax deferral. But the problem becomes, how do I get the money out tax efficiently? Have we talked about the distribution phase of that non-qualified annuity? And that's what we're going to focus on. So start thinking about in your book of business, when you're talking about these products, do you have clients that have non-qualified annuities with gains? And if you were to ask them, what would cause you to spend the money? Why would I use this? This is rainy day money for most people as we go through the analysis. So I want you to think about, once again, non-qualified annuities are very similar to the IRAs because it comes out, if that gain comes out as ordinary income when taken out. So we talk about this plan for care or extended care planning. We have a great document here. You can get that from Scott or Angie there at Producers Excel. This is a PDF that we've made. It's for consumers. It's for advisors. And what it does is it provides the advisor the framework to have the conversation. Written plan for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Here's the date. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, tell me about your family. Tell me about your friends. Where do they live? What's the dynamics of the family? Tell me a little about your other trusted advisors that you work with. And then we get at the heart of the matter right away. What experience do you have with any family or friend needing care? See, if they've had a front row seat to somebody, mom or dad needing care, they are very open to this plan for care. This is the extended care plan. I'm giving you the framework to have the conversation. Just stay within and ask these questions. I guarantee you, your clients will appreciate finally putting some of their thoughts down on paper. Well, we want to talk about what that experience is. Who do you know that's needed care? Tell me about that. Do you believe you could live a long life? And if you did, you might need care from others. And if you ever needed care, how would that affect your family from a physical and emotional and financially? How would that play itself out? I was on a call a couple of weeks ago with an advisor, and I asked that, tell me about your advisor and client, helping them out with some virtual sales assistance. And I asked the clients, I said, tell me about your experience of, anybody needing care. They said, we're taking care of our aunt. She's in her late 80s and she's widowed. And so us nieces and nephews are taking care of the aunt. And she said, we've done this now for 3 weeks and we're done. We're throwing in the towel. We can't do it anymore. See, that's becomes the reality. We talk's great that, oh yeah, we're going to take care of you, Aunt Betty. But when care is needed, and after 3 weeks, the nieces and nephews said, no more. We need to be thinking about some type of an assisted living facility, some other type of care deliverable. So think about that from a family perspective, from a physical and emotional aspect of providing care 24/7, 365, and then ultimately what that financially looks like. Then we get into some soft questions there. If you ever needed care, would you like to preserve your ability to choose? Decide now where you want to receive your care. Defer this decision to a later date or defer it to somebody else. In fact, you could use that fourth one is let the kids argue about where mom and dad go. I believe this is one family event, one life event that could tear apart families. You may know of families that are not talking to each other because they disagreed on where mom or dad might receive care. Basically, they're saying, we did not agree with how you're spending my inheritance. Then we get into where would you like to receive your care? In your home. Maybe you're thinking you're going to move in with your children. Is that feasible? Does it work? Where do the kids live? Maybe it's assisted living, nursing facility, or other. Who do you want to physically provide your care? The default is a spouse. Maybe it's a child, but have you talked with them? How does that look? If the child is 3 hours away, tell me how that works. Or do you want to use a professional care provider? And then who do you want to be responsible for coordinating the care? I would tell you that most clients would say we want our kids to supervise our care, not provide daily care. Think about that for a minute. I'd rather have my kids supervise and be my care advocate as opposed to providing care on a daily basis. See, this whole front page here is building the need or the why. Why would I buy your product? Why do I even want to have this conversation? Why is it important for us to have this conversation? I need to understand, and we're going to unpack the need. Because once I understand and we build the need, then when we flip the page over and we get to the other side about how to pay for it, it's easier. Because now they understand why they're going to spend or why they'd reallocate an asset or a resource. The question becomes, what's been earmarked out of the one's income to pay for one's care? Nothing has been. Nobody's saving money at age 25 or 30 into the Silvercrest Nursing Home deposit fund, so to speak. It's all about lifestyle. It's all about legacy. That's what people, they want to do. They want to use that money while they're alive and they want to pass it on as a legacy. Nobody, when I was an advisor, I never had a client say, I can't wait to spend the money at the nursing home. Now, we know that people do need care and we talk about what income. So now we're going to talk about how you pay for it. If you're their advisor, what assets should they liquidate first, second, third, and fourth? And what are the tax consequences? Go back to the buckets that we just talked about in the prior slide. Where does that bucket, how is the money coming out? And the last question, and there's always a magical question, and I always ask the client, if you didn't have to sell that asset today to pay for your care, who was it ultimately going to go to? I guarantee it's a legacy play. It's going to my kids, it's going to my grandkids, it's going to the church, it's going to a charity, it's going to a brother or sister, it doesn't matter. It's not going to Silvercrest Nursing Facility. That's not what it's earmarked for. So now we're kind of tying back those assets and saying, okay, if you had to spend money or if I had to liquidate, what would we sell first, second, third, or fourth? And I'm going to talk to you about as we get into the annuity products today, the reason why I think the annuity product, that old annuity with gain, how do I get that money out tax-free, right? That's what we wanted. That should be the first asset that should be liquidated. Then we're going to get into some other legal documents, and then we're going to talk about what existing policies they have. There's a place for them to sign and date it. You put it in your file. Advisors that are using this plan for care, there's a couple things that are going to happen. Number one, you are going to set yourself apart from all the other product peddlers, whatever you want to call it. You are now providing a great service because nobody's never sat down with them before and had this conversation with them. I've sat through meetings or heard back from the feedback I get from advisors saying, we went through this, and the client said, this is the first time. Nobody has ever sat down with us before. We have an advisor with Edward Jones. We got some insurance with New York Life, whatever it is. Nobody's ever sat down and taken the time with the plan of care. They want a copy of this. And you also have it in your file so that when something bad happens, Dad has that stroke on Sunday, he's needing care, he has whatever the situation may be, and the family's calling you up and say, hey, what's the plan for mom and dad? I see I have your business card here. You are their advisor. And you can say, yeah, a couple of years ago, we put together a plan of care for your parents, and this is their wishes. They dated it, signed it. So it is a great document to be used. Then the question becomes, how do they fund for it? How do they pay for it? What's been earmarked? And that's where we get into the different products that we talk about. So let's focus on annuities because that's what we're talking about today. We did some research with Gallup a couple years ago. The number one reason why somebody buys an annuity in the first place is tax deferral. If you on the call today write annuities, I guarantee you in your presentation, somewhere in the conversation, you're talking about tax deferral and rate. Tax deferral and rate. 73% of those that bought an annuity it's basically rainy day money. Think about this for a minute. If you've been selling annuities for the last 10, 15 years, my guess is you filled out maybe more death claims on those annuities if somebody died than withdrawal from the principal, right? Taking money out. People aren't taking the money out. It's just growing tax deferred. It's rainy day money. And if I do need it, it's because it's an emergency for a catastrophic illness or home care or nursing or some type of a healthcare event. That's what it's earmarked for. So that's what I want you to focus on, the tax deferral, but also why do we have the money? In fact, the magical question here is what would cause you to spend it? If you're out doing reviews with your clients and these annuities are out of surrender, why did you buy it? Is it earmarked for something? What would cause you to spend it? Those are some great open-ended questions. And they'll say, we're not going to spend it. It's a leave-on asset. We're going to give it to the kids. But if I need it, it's because I'm in a nursing home. And then bells and whistles should be going off. Call Scott, call Angie and say, hey, we got some great opportunities here. These people have old monies with gains. And now let's figure out how we can get it into an extended care plan. And that becomes the conversation. So the Pension Protection Act of 2006, Congress signed into law. So we have old annuities with gains. And if I take money out of that old annuity, when I take the gain out, there's federal tax, there's state tax. There's this thing called provisional income, which is how much of my Social Security will be taxed. And I've had some success in my life. Maybe I have Medicare Part B and D surcharges, the IRMA tax. Ask somebody in their late 70s, are you excited about paying more tax when you take that dollar out of that old annuity? Nobody wants to pay more taxes than they have to. And oh, by the way, the long-term capital gains rate that one pays is also income driven. So the more income I have, the larger or the higher long-term capital gain rate. There's all sorts of taxes when I take that money out. It's not very tax efficient, I guess, with respect to that. Now, with the Pension Protection Act, if we 1035 that old annuity over to the One America product, so I do a 1035, I carry over the basis, I carry over the gain. I still have access to the growth of the contract. If I need care down the road, which is what it's earmarked for, tax qualified long-term care, meaning I have a deficiency of 2 of 6 ADLs or cognitive impairment. If I experience that, I can get everything out tax-free. The gain comes out tax-free. There, right there's your tax leverage. Very tax efficient. It's the distribution side of the equation. I have an advisor that's very successful in this space, and he says, Mr. and Mrs. Client, when you bought the annuity, there's 2 phases to an annuity. There's the accumulation side of the house. You're growing the money. And then there's the distribution or payout phase. My question to you is, what phase are we in today for this annuity that we're sitting at, looking at? Are you still trying to grow it with some high rates? You got Scott, you got other products out there in the marketplace for the rates. If it's a rate, if you're trying to still grow the money. But if I'm 78, 80 years old, 82, I may be thinking, how am I going to get that money out tax efficiently? I'm now kind of thinking about second phase. And that becomes the Pension Protection Act, very efficient way of getting the money out. So within the suite of products that we have, there's 2 products that you have access to. We have an index product. I call that the growth and liquidity option. You'll see there are issue ages from ages 40 to 85. I have to go to the home office to get an exception, but we can write it up to 87. So I want you to think about in your book of business, the sweet spot for this product is 75 to 87. Go back to your book of business and start looking at who has old annuities with gains. Have that question, what would cause you to spend it? There's only 4 health questions. We're going to talk about that here in a minute as well. Very easy, the closest thing to guarantee issue in the market. We'll take up to $1 million. We can do it on a single or joint life. We're available in all states except for New York. Now, if you have a younger couple, and we'll get into that here in a minute, we got the leveraged money play. And I got a case example on that as well. Ages 40 to age 80. If the issue age of the contract is between ages 40 and 69, for every dollar they put in, they get $4 back day 1. That's a huge leverage. That's a leverage play. Put in $1, you get $4 in LTC benefits tax-free. If the issue age is between 70 and 80, it becomes $1 to $2.50. Still not a bad place. Because of the leverage, we call that our continuation of benefits rider. That does require a phone screen or a phone interview. Now, I want to caution you there because everybody likes the leverage. But I want you to use the health screen form that Angie and Scott can provide you. I want to know what the health of the client is. We normally find people more in their 60s with this option here. Not to say that we wouldn't take somebody in their 70s, but we get into some health issues. And if I go down the path with the Annuity Care 2 option and I get a declination, I can't go back and get the 4 questions. Let me say that again. If I start with the Annuity Care and we've done some underwriting and we get a declination, I can't go back and say, oh yeah, now I want to do that 4 question because now we can't do anything with One America. So if you're going to go down that path, and you want to look at the Annuity Care 2 option, which is a great option, let's just make sure we know what the health of the client is. It can be on a single or joint life chassis. It's available in all states except for Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. So a couple extra states that it's not approved in. But so 2 great products. We're finding great success with the index product. Like I said, 75, 87. Our average case right now is about age 77, average case size 200,000. We will accept partial 1035s. Had a case just yesterday, the client has 460,000 in an annuity with gain. They said, Tim, we'd like to give you half of that. Leave the other half in a different, maybe income play. Maybe it's something else. So we get half of the gain and we get half of the basis if they gave us 50%. On a partial 1035, and that's a great plan for the couple. So Lots of great options. Work with Scott, work with Angie. We're here to help you with respect to those pieces. So let's talk about the indexed annuity product. This is a case that we worked on earlier this year. We had Dan and Sarah. They're both, as you can see here, 78. Dan's father passed away some years ago. He had inherited a $50,000 from cash. He put $50,000 into the annuity. It's grown to about $100,000. It's doubled in value over those years. They both have some substantial health issues. They would not qualify for the traditional hybrid products nor the traditional long-term care products. And when we ask them about this money that's never been touched, it's their rainy day. It's their emergency fund. And their whole thing is if we never need it, they have 3 children, it's going to go to the kids. Do you have clients that look like Dan and Sarah in your book of business? Late 70s, never have touched the money, not going to touch the money unless they have that need for care. And if they never need it, it's going to be passed on as a legacy asset. That's the client that we want to look for. So as we go through the old annuity at 3%, it had a 3% GMIR. There's your 3% compounding down. Let's assume somewhere between 86, 87, they have a healthcare event. They call you up and say, we need to send us 1/3 of the account value. So we send out a check, or the insurance company sends them a check for $42,000. Next January, they're going to get a 1099 for that distribution. They got $12,600 in taxes. They net $29,000. The next year, the care need is still there. You take out another 1/3 of the account, or the second 1/3 chunk. It's still gain in the contract. 11,000 is taxed or tax. They net 30. Finally, they get to that last $46,000, which is all basis. There's no tax on the basis, so there's no. They get the full 46. So when they look at it, they paid 24,000 in taxes, and they got 106,000 out of the contract. How many clients are sitting looking just like that right there? Old annuities with gains, and they got federal, state, provisional income, maybe the IRMA tax. Now let's move over to the green side of the equation. This is on our index product. This is a product that has an index strategy tied. It's a very simple product tied to the S&P 500. It's a consistently boring product. You would not buy this for accumulation. There is some accumulation, but it's not, you have other products. Scott has other products in the portfolio if you're still trying to grow it. This is the protection, how I get the money out. We take the same 100,000, we put it into the index strategy. We also have this little thing called long-term care benefit multiplier. The longer you own the contract, there's more in coverage. So about year 86, 87, the LTC benefit in the contract is 173. One of them goes on claim. We're going to pay out $5,789 a month or $69,000 a year, income tax free, because we're now using this for their care. And we're going to exhaust that over 30 months. The whole goal here is to get the gain out income tax free, which we were able to do. We got the whole $173,000 out with no taxes. So from a quick summary perspective, an extra $67,000 or an extra $2,200 a month in benefit, just by moving the money from the left pocket to the right pocket. And now it's in a very efficient product if they need care. That's the question the client needs to ask. If this money's earmarked, let's get it in the most tax efficient product we can. And by using the Pension Protection Act and we get rid of the taxes, we can play ball. Now, let's get into the underwriting of this case. I mentioned that there were 4 questions, and so here are the questions that the client has to say no to. First, do you currently use any of these mechanical devices? A wheelchair, walker, dialysis machine, oxygen equipment, respirator, stair lift, chairlift, or motorized scooter? Do you currently use any of these? If they can say no to that, we're moving on to the next set of questions. Now, keep in mind, I get this asked all the time. Tim, what about a CPAP? CPAP is not oxygen. What I'm looking for is that tank or some type of a little compressor off to the side and with, you know, the plastic tubes up to the nose. We didn't ask about quad canes or canes in general. It's a walker or a wheelchair. Do you currently need help receiving activities of daily living, such as eating, dressing, toileting, transferring in and out of bed, chair, wheelchair, and or maintaining continence? If you're already needing care, this is not the product. We do not want to buy a client. Do you currently have or have been diagnosed, been treated for Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, MS, MD, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, and or Parkinson's? Those are the dreaded diseases. If they can say no to that, the last question, have you ever been diagnosed by a doctor saying that you've tested positive for HIV, AIDS, or ARC? If they can answer no to that, the last question, we're going to ask it, but it has no bearing on the underwriting of the contract. This policy is used for different products. And for us to remove that, we'd have to refile it with the whole state. So we just said, basically, we're not going to refile it, but we don't care if they have had SSDI, Social Security Disability Income, or on to SSDI today. We don't care. They can say yes or no. It does not impact underwriting. There are no APSs. There's no MIB. There's no prescription check. There's no phone interview. You are my field underwriters. If the client can say no to these 4 questions, the policy is automatically approved. As soon as the policy comes into us, you will get an email saying, congratulations, policy's been approved. Same day approval. So great opportunity. Once again, 7587, can they say no to these 4 questions? If they would say yes to that, do not submit an application. It's not going to go through. So this is a great opportunity. As we know, for older clients, they have some health issues, but if they can say no, we're ready to go. I don't care if they've been declined by another carrier. I don't care if they have a family history of dementia. I don't care. They just can't be receiving treatment for dementia. I don't care if they have stage 4 cancer. I don't care if they have lupus. That's not the questions we're asking here. Now let's jump over to the Annuity Care 2 product. This is that leveraged program. So this requires a phone interview, right? This requires a little bit more underwriting because of the leverage. So I had a 68-year-old female case over in Topeka that we worked on a couple months ago. She's a type 2 diabetic, well controlled, but some companies won't take that. And she also had a family history of dementia, which is why she's even having this conversation, because she saw what happened with her mom of needing care for 8 years. And she was declined by a traditional LTC company because of the family history and the diabetes. So she was interested in product, but she's trying to figure out, how do I purchase this? So we did the pre-screen. We got it up to our underwriter. The underwriter said, based upon the A1C and the diabetes and the controlled, and we don't ask for family history, we can move forward with an application. She had a little bit of an old annuity. She took some cash or CD money to add it. We got $125,000 into the account. She's widowed. The whole goal of the client, when we talked about it, she wanted to have coverage, whether she received care in her home or in some type of a facility. And this was money earmarked for kids. So once again, there's the legacy aspect of what's the death benefit going to look like if I never need it. She hasn't lost it. And because she's under 69 years of age, she was able to take $1 and turn it into $4. So that's a great solution. We checked all the boxes, made sure she could get the underwriting done, the preview tool. And so here's a quick summary. She deposited $125,000 with One America. That monthly LTC benefit day 1 is $5,200 a month. She has coverage for 96 months. She's worried about that. If she gets dementia herself, her 125 became $500,000. I don't know about you, but that's a great story to go back and say, I took $1 and I just now turned it into $4 for benefits. Death benefit at the end of the first year, if she never needed the contract, $125,000 and change. She's not worried about, she just wants to make sure she's not She wants to make sure she gets her money back. If there's a growth on it, great. Her big thing was, I don't want to put my family in the poorhouse, so to speak. I don't want to take all these other assets. If I can take $1 and you turn it into 4 and then into $500,000, that's a great bucket of money for her. Access to the claims concierge team. I haven't hit on that yet, and I'll take a look. There's a slide coming up. We'll talk about that. But all of our products have access to our claims concierge team. I'll address that here in the next call. And of course, we did have the underwriting phone call, which is a cognitive screen and just the phone call. That's it. There's no APS. We make a decision after the phone interview. So keep in mind that health screen for that product. Preview, get a pre-screen on these folks. Work with the team there at Producers XL to get that done. Send it up to our underwriters, just, thumbs up, yeah, let's move forward. We don't see anything in the file that's causing us concern. Like I said, if we go down this path and we can't get it and we get that declination, I can't go back to the prior index product with the 4 questions. I don't know about you, but if you've ever had a need for care or somebody in your family has a need for care, the question there says, does the money know who to call for services, right? So we go back to that plan of care. What asset are you going to sell first, second, third, and fourth? If dad falls in the shower on Sunday, he's at the emergency room on Tuesday, he's now going for 3 or 4 days in observation at the hospital, and then they kick him out of there and they put him over into Madonna Rehab up in Lincoln, Nebraska. And he's there for, let's say 5 or 6 months because he had hurt his back. That's what happens, right? So does the family know where to get resources? That's the question. So everybody has a checkbook, right? So we're going to have to pay for the bill. But let's assume, that's option A. The other option is, yeah, you got the checkbook to pay for it. But would it be nice for the family to have some resources, access to resources? I call it a Rolodex. Maybe it's a guide, maybe it's a navigator, but somebody that has walked down this path before you, that you can pick up an 800 number and call our professionals in Indianapolis and say, hey, my dad has had this situation. He has a policy with you. It looks like he's going to go to some type of a rehab facility. How do we get a claim started? What are you going to pay for? How are you going to pay for it? What resources are available in the community once we try to get him home? Can he come home? Does he go to assisted living? What assisted living facilities are available in my community? Now, we don't dictate where that goes, but that's what claims concierge professionals are there for. Help the family navigate this process. It's a lifeline for them. I think that's a big part to what we're talking about, especially if in your late 70s, early 80s, and you're talking about those clients, they don't want to be a burden to their kids. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, when we move the money to the left or the right pocket, not only can I give you the money out tax-free, but we got this great service called Claims Concierge. It's free, it's part of the contract. If you ever need care, your family has an 800, they're going to be assigned to a dedicated person to help your family navigate this process. Man, that would have been great when my dad needed care. Boy, when my brother-in-law needed care, that would have been great. We had to do it all on our own, try to figure this thing out. Now, I got a claims concierge. They're more maybe just listening to what's going on every day. So that lifeline with receiving care. So I'm going to stop for a second or two, see if there's anything in the chat box or the Q&A, see if there's any questions there that we need to address.
If you guys have any questions, just click on the Q&A, and I will address those questions. We don't have any questions at this time. Really, really good stuff, though. Very exciting, different way of looking at annuity stuff. So I'm really glad we're having this. But if anybody has any questions, I know sometimes you don't think of them right now, but feel free to reach out to Angie or myself after the call, or if you want us to have a call with a customer, we can do all that for you too. But right now we don't have any questions, so I'll let you keep going, Tim. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat box, though.
Excellent. Yeah, no, we'll keep going. We're kind of wrapping up. We're kind of towards the end of our time, but also just the where we're at in the presentation. So let's talk about licensing and contracting. So the first and foremost, I got three different scenarios. First and foremost, the first group, we'll call it Group A. Never submitted any business with producers out. Maybe today you got this invite. You're going, what is this all about? Maybe you want to know more about growing your business in the annuity space, working with maybe you've done Medicare supplements, and now you want to kind of pivot over to the annuity side. So first and foremost, you have to have a life and health license. It does require the 4-hour LTC training. If you've never done that, then the first time you do it is an 8-hour course. It's a 4-hour refresher course. And then with One America, there are 2 product training courses. There's the indexed annuity product and annuity care and annuity care 2. So there's 2 courses for you before you can submit any business. Group B, submit business. You've already submitted business with Producers XL, but just not with One America. Once again, you've already done some of the pre-work. They have some of that already on file with your life and health license. We just need to make sure we got your LTC certification, and then of course the 2 products. And Group C, you've submitted business not only with Producers XL, but you've done some business with us, maybe with our asset care product. Maybe you've done an annuity care in the past. Just want to make sure that you got the 2 product trainings completed, and we'll get off. And so the team there at Producers XL will make sure that that's all in good order. We do just-in-time appointments, so you can do an application even though you don't have a writing number. So that should not stop you. You do have to have the product training in place. You have to have your LTC certification in place before you take the app. Otherwise, you get a practice, and you're going to do that application a second time. So how do you gain access to the One America product training? So we have a dedicated site. The first time, once again, this link, we can, Angie and the team at Producers has access to this. They would send you the link. The first time visitor, you're going to click right there. It says click here to register. So I'm going to have to register. So what that means, you're going to type in some personal information, some email, phone number, what your resident state is, your NPN number. You're going to put that in a second time, and then what states you're need to be looking at, and you're going to register. There's a little box down there at the bottom that says register. Once I've registered for the product, I'm going to go back out to that login page, but now I'm going to focus on the returning user section. Enter your NPN number there, and then your password is basically your last name in lowercase with the last 4 digits of the NPN, not your social security, but the NPN number. Kind of give you a little sheet about how that is. So now you're going to log in, and we're going to pop that up. It'll say welcome with your name on it. There's your annuity training and certification. As you can see there on the left navigation at the top, I want you to focus on my product training. That's what we want to do. So my product training is what we're going to focus on, that 3rd tab down. And when I click on that, my product training, you're going to get these courses that are going to pop up. And I've highlighted the two courses that you have to take. Can't say that enough. Somebody will say, well, I already did it. Oh, you only did one, and we needed the other one. So when you're in there, they're about 10-minute brain sharks. Kind of listen through the audio. There's a couple questions at the end, and where it says incomplete, it would say completed, and you get a little certificate saying it's done. Save the certificate, send it off to the team there at Producers XL saying, hey, I just completed the training. So you have a little documentation that it was done. So those are how you access the 2 product courses. Also, best interest rules, right? So there's some best interest. There were some changes the last 18 months with best interest. If you were able to have the old 1-hour course and you did another course, you're probably grandfathered in. But if you missed that window, it's probably has shut. And it probably is going to require you to take a new 4-hour course. Check with your state to make sure you're in compliance with the new best interest. I had to renew my license. I'm based here in Kansas, so I had to renew my license in May. And so part of that renewal of my CE, I did a new 4-hour course. that then satisfies best interest. So just make sure you're on top of your state requirements, because that will sometimes come back and catch you as well. I think I've already hit on this, but it's worth saying it a third or fourth time. State licenses and product training must be completed prior to the application date. There's no exception to that. That's a state requirement. Because I've had it come up, oh, I forgot, I didn't do that, I thought I had it done, I didn't realize this, I've already done the application, can I get an exception? There are no exceptions being able to be made. So that's how you access the product training. The team there at Producers XL can get you the link. Make sure you get the product training done. And as we wrap up for our time today, who to contact. So we got Scott and Angie, there's their contact information, email address, the team there at Producers, great folks, work with them. But here's my ask for those that are on the call today. Think back to the existing book of business that you have, old annuities, or even ask, maybe you've never sold a client, had this situation come up. They weren't big annuity producers. I said, if you're meeting with clients, just ask them, do you guys happen to own the new type or old type of annuities? Now, nobody knows. That's the fun part. Well, I don't know. What's the difference? Well, they just told me they own an annuity. They just don't know what kind they have. So the follow-up to that is, let me ask you this. Most people save the money because it's earmarked for a rainy day. If you own an annuity, what's it for? What would cause you to spend it? I'm back into those questions I just mentioned. Well, I'm not going to spend it unless I'm going to a nursing home. Oh my gosh. You might have some gain on that, Paul. Do you like paying taxes? No. Let's talk about making sure it's in the most tax efficient bucket. Could you bring the policy in? Let's take a review. Let's take a look at that. So doesn't matter if you've never sold that client an annuity, but you got other products in the household, ask them, do you have the new type or old type? They don't know. Now you're playing ball with them. Maybe you sold them an annuity, but yeah, they got that other annuity with Prudential down the road here. I bought it from my brother-in-law 5 years ago or 20 years ago or 15, whatever, or I bought it at the bank. You'll be amazed on how much other business you come across when you start asking those questions. And so that's my ask. And reach out to Scott, Angie. We can get you the quotes. They can get you the quotes. It's a very simple and easy process. I know Scott mentioned he's available to jump on calls. I know Angie is as well. I'm an extension of their team. I'm with One America, but I'm more than happy to help out if needed. But you got a great team there at Producers XL to basically bring this to the finish line. And you do 4 or 5 of these, very nice program, and it really helps the client out, getting that money in a really tax efficient manner to get it out if they have that need for care. That's a big deal. So with that, Scott, Angie, I'm going to pass it back to you guys. See if there's any other questions, and if not, we're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, and I know everybody. We said we'd be here an hour, but we might give you a little bit of time back.
Thanks, Tim. I don't see any questions in the question and answer box here. I know a lot of times when I'm on a call, I don't have questions right then, but the next day as I start thinking about clients and stuff, it's always like, oh boy, I should have asked that question. Guys, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to try to reach out to everybody and get you the forms that Tim talked about. I think those forms, that plan of care form, is just that's going to be the big thing. What an easy way to start the conversation. When Tim and Angie and I talked about this a few weeks ago, my first thoughts went to my folks. They're getting up there. My dad's worried about nursing home care. They have some of that. But, this plan of care, I can sit down because I don't know all the answers. So I can sit down with them and I can ask them those questions, make them a little more comfortable. And I think if you can go back through your book of business or even your new customers, ask that question. So if nobody has anything, I want to thank everybody for joining today. We will be doing this again a couple more times. So if you want to listen in again, you're more than welcome to. We did record it, so we can get you the recording. But if you have any questions, let me know. I appreciate your time, and everybody enjoy your day. Thank you, Tim, for putting this on for us, and just let us know how we can help you here at Producers XL and One America. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.